Maths is not about numbers. If you think maths is about numbers, please get that out of your mind right now. If you've got an exam coming up, if you're doing a piece of homework, if you're just trying to get through maths, or even if you love maths, but you're not necessarily performing your best in it at the moment, or if you hated maths at school, say you're a parent now and you're now trying to help someone with maths, like say you've got a child who's studying maths and you're trying to like help them, but you knew that you didn't click with it at school, then please remove the idea that maths is about numbers, because it's not. This is Live Locs and Lessons with Liv in 10 minutes or less por hacerlo. Oy yay! Mathematicians are lazy, so therefore if you're studying maths, take the lazy approach. Welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm talking about how lazy mathematicians are. Just a disclaimer alert. One, I would consider myself a mathematician, so when it comes to maths, you know, I take the lazy approach, but I wouldn't say I'm a lazy person. And two, I've been a private tutor for mathematics for over 10 years, so from the age of 18. Therefore, I have some experience of working with students, teaching the curriculum, the syllabus, the content in maths, and supporting a range of learning styles across the students that I've had who have come to me 99% of the time either hating the subject or finding it extremely hard, and I absolutely love maths. So whilst my mission is not to convert anyone to love it, because I believe that would be an absolutely impossible task, my number one goal when I work with a young person when it comes to maths is to just get them to understand it in a way that gets them through the phase that they're in. So whether it's a case of in that particular academic year, whether they've got exams coming up and they're preparing for those, and there's a grade that they would like to get by the end of that qualification. So let me just make it clear that I'm not just slating people who study maths or people who are good at maths. No, this is coming from context of who I am and how I would describe myself and what I've learned over the years. So getting on to like a few key points as to why I believe this statement to be a factual opinion or an opinionated fact, whichever one you prefer. Mathematicians use formulas. Why do we use formulas? Because once we have that in place, we can just use it. It's not like essay-based subjects where you're expressing yourself. No, maths is an evidence-based subject. And I'm thinking of people who are sitting exams, preparing for tests, revising, studying, whatever. Unless the question says to guesstimate, guess, estimate, and even in estimation, there's still a level of strategy you need to approach the question with. It's an evidence-based subject. So something I do say to my students is, if you cannot explain what you've done to answer a question to someone younger than you, that in itself should tell you that you've gone wrong somewhere. You should always be able to explain what you've done. And the way I educate, I never like my student to feel inferior, stupid, or incapable. Therefore, I never go with a straight, no, that's wrong, and this is the right answer approach. I would be like, how did you get there? What did you do? I need to understand how they process the question so that I can see where the gaps may be, or think of how I'm going to communicate best to them to understand the question. So I never assume that my way is the best way, and therefore my students should understand it in the way that I understand it. That's not fair, because I've been doing maths for years. There's multiple methods sometimes for answering a question, and I love the subject, so I have a natural affinity with it. In terms of like a student going wrong, if they start to explain what they've done and I can't see the mathematical element in it, if they say something mathematically correct, I don't knock them. I'm like, okay, so what did you do after that? What did you do next? I'm trying to find something that is inaccurate. But if they do something which doesn't sound mathematically correct to me, and I ask them how did they get that, or what made them think that they needed to go down that path or whatever, and they cannot explain it to me, say they say something like, I don't know, I guessed, or something that is a bit whimsical, nothing solid, nothing concrete, then that's when I will then go into corrective mode. And this is why I don't always describe myself as a tutor. I'd say I'm very much a maths coach, because I kind of like to inspire self-correction, because I know at some point that student's going to be on their own in that exam, in that test, in the class, having to do questions from a worksheet or from a textbook or something. So whilst I'm there to support them and I'll answer almost any question, I say almost any because if a student asks me what the answer is, I'm not going to tell them. They know I'm not going to tell them unless the situation calls for it. But I almost like guide them to understand the question and what they've done, so that if they go wrong, they can almost like pick it out, so they can see where they've gone off track, so that they can feel like they're empowered to be able to correct themselves. Another thing is, which I've kind of touched on, is maths is not about numbers. If you think maths is about numbers, please get that out of your mind right now. If you've got an exam coming up, if you're doing a piece of homework, if you're just trying to get through maths, or even if you love maths, but you're not necessarily performing your best in it at the moment, or if you hated maths at school, say you're a parent now and you're now trying to help someone with maths, like say you've got a child who's studying maths and you're trying to like help them, but you knew that you didn't click with it at school, then please remove the idea that maths is about numbers, because it's not. It's about method, and then the situation changes, the numbers change. If you make maths about numbers, then when those numbers become letters, that throws everyone out the window. There are so many students I've heard saying, I don't like maths because I don't like algebra. Where did the X come from? Where did the letters come from? Because no one's really taken the time to explain to them that maths isn't about numbers. So when you fixate on maths being about numbers, when letters come in, you're thrown because you're like, I'm doing English in maths. These are just kind of things that I've heard students say without realizing that see the letter as like a curtain and the numbers behind it. So the letter just represents something you do not know. But rather than writing something I do not know, you put X. Technically, the letter is a number because you usually substitute a letter for a number once you find out what the value is. So that's why I say maths is about method, and then the situation changes, but the method never changes. So what you do is once you learn a method step by step, and then rinse and repeat. As you get more comfortable with doing that, as you learn more, then you grow more by doing practice questions. This is why I say you can never do too many practice questions when it comes to maths. That is my personal opinion, and it's trial and tested. If anyone's thinking, how do I revise for maths? Do question after question after question after question. There's no such thing as too many questions for any topic, level of study. Like, you can never do too many questions. If you only have 20 questions accessible to you, which I know you don't because the internet's there, do those 20 questions and then start from the top and do them again. Start from the top and do them again, because what you're doing is you're practicing the method, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And then it means that when the situation changes, you don't get emotionally attached to a specific scenario, number, or way things look. The more questions you do, the better you become at maths. Fact. You just gain confidence because you get taken out of your comfort zone constantly. I think that's what I love about maths. You're constantly taken out your comfort zone, but it's so rewarding to get the right answer or to even make progress, just do something right. This is why I also say for students to chase method marks when you're doing exams. Chase them method marks. There are more method marks in a maths exam than there are accuracy marks. If you don't get the final answer, fine, but if you chase the method marks, you'll be okay for the most part. I think my final point would be, a lot of people think someone's good at maths because they understand the complicated stuff. There is some element of truth there. However, I wouldn't say anyone is incapable of doing math. I genuinely believe that everyone is capable of being good at maths. And I don't know if that's just the optimist in me, educator in me, or the coach in me, but I genuinely believe that given the students I've worked with, usually based on my experience, my personal and professional experience, if someone is good at maths, I'd say that's probably mainly driven by the fact that they've learned the method, they've rinsed and repeated it. So the method's either clicked quite quickly or they've practiced the method so many times it comes to them naturally. And so their speed of processing is faster. But that doesn't necessarily mean that what they do, you cannot do. I hope that makes sense. So it's not that anyone is bad at maths. It's just they haven't been given the tools or haven't been able to take the time to fully digest a method and practice it often enough, or have it explained to them in a way that they understand, in a language that they understand. And this is why I say it's important as an educator to listen to how a student processes something and then respond accordingly, rather than dictate how they should understand it, because they're a different person, they're a whole human being on their own, and so therefore you need to be able to speak on their level. So sometimes it's stripping it down. There's a lot of things that I do in my tutoring sessions that is centered around basics, like fundamental maths, foundation. It's not even like, if I'm thinking of students in the age bracket of 14 to 16 where they're doing trigonometry, if you're older and you're doing calculus or integration, differentiation, if you are doing circle theorems, simultaneous equations, I don't know, area of 3D shapes, surface area of 3D shapes, or whatever. For me, I think sometimes I communicate or I do things with my 14, 15, 16-year-olds that they learned when they were like 8, 9, and 10. So I have to take it back to primary school or your earlier years. Just being able to look at a number and break it down, manipulate the number. This is why I say maths isn't about numbers, it's about method, because if you can manipulate a number, you're on the right track towards understanding maths. Let me take the number 8, for example. You don't just see it as an 8. You see 8 as 8 over 1. There you go, you got a fraction. So even though it was an integer, a whole number, you got a fraction, 8 over 1. You see an 8 as 4 times 2. You've got a multiplication, 4 plus 4. You've got an addition, 9 take away 1. You've got a subtraction, 16 divided by 2. You got a division. You see an 8 as 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2. Just being able to break down a single number into multiple forms, so then it becomes more useful to you. This is why I say mathematicians are lazy, because when you think of, like, if you were to go in a mathematician's brain and see what they're doing, all they're doing is simple things repeatedly at speed. That's all that's happening. Everyone can be a mathematician. Just take the lazy approach, follow the steps, rinse and repeat. Use the formula, rinse and repeat. The only thing you need to then learn is how you apply it, meaning how do you know what you need to use when. But then that comes from practicing loads of questions over and 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 over again. But if you want to see more videos about my hat as an educator, me wearing my hat as an educator, about me being a tutor, maths, English, Spanish, and how I just approach it with my students, then please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any content. I'll talk about anything. Thank you. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Whew. I think you need to be lowered a little bit, just a tad. That good height. I got quite a bit of space above me, so I think that works. So we're rocking some pigtails today. These are just the warm-ups. I think I want to sit like this, but I'm pretty much on the edge of my seat. I want to feed off the natural light. Do you see them? Do you see them? I'm coming up to 18 months. 1 year and a half, when timeout really makes sense. Maybe I should do it here because my hand naturally wants to bend at the wrist. What is wrong with me? What is right with me? Gotta be able to itch. I even have to warm up for the warm-ups now, because y'all, because the one in the comments just kind of let me know if I said that correctly. Like the warm-ups, bloopers, outtakes. So this is now content within itself. Liv, what is gonna come out of you today? What ramblings are you gonna go through? This is when I'm talking to you. This is when I'm talking to myself. Sometimes I talk to myself here and sometimes I talk to you there. This topic has been on my heart for some time.